Hello, this is Anthony Parent of IRS Medic. Today is Friday, August 26th, and this is a special episode we have. We can't wait. We have to run this early. We have so much stuff going on, and there's an IRS notice that's popping up around. Huge news. I've been getting emails on it, and it provides relief for some, but oh boy, it's not so good. And the other big news, we've made it into Bloomberg. We've gotten some attention. This little channel has been grabbing some attention. John Richardson and our friend Mark Zell have been quoted in Bloomberg on our actions here. So while our audience might not be the largest, I am telling you, believe me, folks, it is the best. And you are a part of it. And thank you so much. And lastly, we're going to conclude with our updates about getting some involvement. I've been getting emails from people just helping out, looking to volunteer, and we'll go over what we're looking for at the end of this special episode. Wow, so it's crazy, John. I want to get over John and Keith. Thank you so much for listening to me. Keith, this is something, as you watch this notice, this is what I want you to this is what I wanted you to imagine yourself as, Keith, if you could do this. Imagine yourself as a U.S. expat who doesn't know you, okay? And now, as you go through this notice, I want you to think about what you would think this notice means as our resident layman, telling us things how they are as we go through this, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to go through notice 2022-36. The IRS comes out with some massive penalty relief. That means so much, or does it? Over to you, John Richardson. What is going on here? You want me to pull it up, or you want? I think we should see your beautiful face a little bit before I do the screen share.
Sure, actually, why don't you pull it up?
Okay. All right, I'm going to pull it up here. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to pull this up. This is notice 22-36 in its entire glory.
Yeah. Okay.
So what does this mean?
Sort of begin here. Those of you who know me know that I'm kind of a direct source kind of guy. Like, I'll go directly to the law, to the regulation, and to the this revenue procedure. Okay, I'm although I find all the commentary and the blogs interesting, I find it presumptively sort of inaccurate, because the reality of this stuff is that it's so complicated and there's so many moving parts that nobody could, based on some 10-minute view of this thing, figure it out. Okay, so I hope that you find this interesting, although we've had a great start from Anthony. Anthony, I've got to say that the only guy I know on the planet who can make citizenship taxation exciting, okay? And,
No. You see, I'm actually not that talented. It actually is that exciting. So,
okay, all right. So anyway, here's the deal, all right? This notice came out on August the 24th. That's this week, apparently taking effect August 25th. There's been a lot of chatter on Twitter about where this came from. And actually, this is it's an order from the Trump administration in March of 2020, which, basically directed the Treasury Secretary to provide relief for filing deadlines, okay, for certain types of people. Right here, see on March 13th.
Yeah, that's what we want right here. So here they kind of buried where it came from after they went through a bunch of stuff.
But in any case, but what's important here is that this is in response to the ongoing coronavirus disease. The emergency declaration instructed the Secretary to provide relief from tax deadlines to Americans who've been adversely affected by the COVID-19 emergency as appropriate, pursuant to, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and this is in response to that. Now, we do have to read it in that context, if for no other reason but that the directive is not to provide general relief as though it's Christmas. The directive is to provide relief for certain people affected by the COVID-19 emergency. And, when it comes to Americans abroad, remember that, remember all Americans are supposed to get vaccinated? Well, not Americans abroad. So, maybe by extension, there's no reason for relief for anything affecting Americans abroad. And that might, in fact, explain why, when you actually look at this and go through it, it's not very helpful at all to Americans abroad. It applies only for the years 2020. And my message would be this: that don't read the blog posts on this unless I write one, in which case you can read it.
Yeah.
Okay. But,
Yes, that's true.
there's a lot of stuff out there. Just Google August 24th, 2022 IRS penalty relief, and you'll see, I bet there's 100 blog
Yeah,
posts.
and
on
here's,
this
you
right
know,
now.
and honestly, in all fairness too, because here's one link of an article I read, and you know, and I have to say, it's not necessarily bad, except
Actually, that's a very good article. That's a very good
yeah,
article.
this
But
one, well, this one right here, and this is what was sent to me. And so this is one you say you recommend. So these guys are, so
it's
Greenberg,
one of the better articles. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, that's an absolutely, first rate, billion-dollar, law firm sort of thing, right?
Right, but I think they said the way they had it sort of doesn't maybe make the statement clear that, I mean, this is great here. I love here's the thing they make clear.
Yeah, let's
It
actually
does
start
not,
there, Anthony.
right?
This is very important, okay, that this penalty relief, first of all, applies only for years 2019-20, but secondly, this is key, it does not apply to any Form 8938 filings, right?
Yeah.
Or to FBAR. All right, et cetera. All right, so there's no relief from that, and I think that that's not a bad starting point at all. If we move up, okay, to the, stop right there, Anthony.
Yep.
You'll notice it says Form 5471.
Yeah.
Actually, I really got to say, okay, that, now listen to me clearly, everybody, there is no Form 5471 penalty relief for an individual U.S. citizen who would attach that form to a normal 1040, okay?
Well, John, that's why I had a problem with the article, because while it's true what they're saying, they're missing the entire point. That don't do this if you're an individual, because if you read it, it says, hey, look, this is providing penalty relief for tax filers. But because it's not defining, well, what tax filers do you mean? Who's filing a 5471? Does it apply to all 5471 filers, John? That's my question.
Well, you get the impression from this article that it does, but
right.
Let me just say again that I think this is a good article. Okay, I'm not being critical.
Well, let's go to the notice. Let's go to the notice.
Yeah, let's go to the notice and explain.
Let's go back to the notice, because I think that's what here's our chief complaint with what we have here, and it applies to anyone. You just don't have to be an American overseas, but anything with I'm sorry there, guys. Where
it doesn't apply to individuals. If you get down to Section 3, Anthony.
Right, Section 3. That's our point. It doesn't apply to individuals.
Stop there.
Right
so here. Section 3, if we can just kind of pause and parse this a little bit, okay?
Yep.
Here's where the action is, right? This is where the grant of relief is.
Okay, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. I'm going to scroll down to page 5
slowly,
now.
right? So we have a waiver and abatement of certain penalties. And you'll notice that it's then punting us over to basically sections 3A1 through 4. It also confirms that this is for returns filed 2019 and 2020. Now, I want to pause on that for a minute because we'll get to this, although it does include penalty relief for 3520 and 3520A. That whole rash of notices, those penalty notices that we're all familiar with, were before the 2019 year, okay? Now, there are other mechanisms to get those particular penalties abated, but I'm just saying it does not apply to that. Okay, so continue on down here slowly. So what does it apply to? Okay, so to make this non-technical, right? So you have a 1040 you need to file. You didn't file and you owe some tax. So Internal Revenue Code 6651, at the risk of oversimplification, it imposes a 5% tax penalty per month up to a maximum of 25%, something I'm sure you're familiar with. So that's being waived, all right, provided these returns get in, by the way, before, I think it's September the 30th, 2020. There's not a ton of time on this, but that's the first thing that's being waived. Now, that would apply to Americans abroad. Is that good? Yeah, well, on its face, it's good, right? But, we have to look at what a tax return might mean for Americans abroad. So let's start there. We've got, yes, you have the 6651.
So I'm going to keep going down then, okay?
Now keep going on down here.
Okay, and I'm just going to say, I'm just going to highlight something right now before I go any further. I just want to show there's an 1120, okay? 1041, 1120, some other things, nonprofit, 1066. Well, wow, okay, that's interesting. And now here's the penalties, okay?
Yeah,
I just
let's
want to
go.
mention
Now,
those
this
other
one is really, I think, where when you read the general articles about this, this would include the article from the Taxpayer Advocate itself that I would recommend, a very good article. And, some other ones that I read, which, I mean, being somebody who's completely sympathetic to and understanding wanting to be the first out of the gate, when you're writing something about this, the problem with it is that it's never quite as simple as it appears. And the way a lot of these articles are written, it suggests 5471 penalty relief. Now, this would be very important generally for Americans abroad because so many of them have small businesses. But if we look at this, let me start with a conclusion. Okay, Americans abroad with small business corporations who have to file 5471s do not get penalty relief under this notice. Now, let me explain why that is. In order to understand this, you have to read the whole thing carefully. Could you go back to the beginning of the top again? Not the whole thing, but
but the actual law, the notice part.
Yeah. Okay. Now, okay, go down a little bit. So this is grant of relief. Now,
yeah.
Okay, pause, please. Okay, go up just a little more.
Yeah.
Okay, so it says the IRS will not impose penalties listed in 3A1 through 4 of this notice with respect. So in other words, the way you have to read that, it's the way that everything that comes out of these laws, everybody files tax except, right? Okay, now everybody is penalized except. The way you need to read this is all penalties remain in force except. All penalties remain in force except.
Right.
Penalties.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now we got to get down a little bit. Now we're going to go back down, if you would, please, to 3, wherever we were, 3A. Okay, so here we go. I think it's up a little bit.
Oh, with the other 3, right. Hang on, right. The other 3A. Wait, the 3A here. Sorry, I lost my spot. Oh, wait, hold on. Keep going. I got to go down.
Somewhere, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
No. Okay,
I think it's
sorry.
page 5 you want, isn't it?
Here we go. Grant of relief. Here we go. Here's a section.
Okay, now, so let's keep going down slowly so we don't miss it. Now, okay, so we talked about the 6651. That's the aggravated tax penalty, right? The extra 5 or 25%. But now go down to the form slowly so we don't gloss over it.
Yeah, hang on. Here we go. So here's all the forms that it attaches to, but I think we want to go further down.
Yeah, we want to.
This is what we're looking for.
Section 2. Okay, now pull that up to the top. So that's all. Oh, stop.
There we go. Okay.
That's all that's
on
the screen. Now let's look at this, okay, for now.
Yep.
Now remember, all penalties remain in force except, ready? Certain penalties under section 6038 AC 60, blah, blah, blah. Now, for failure to follow the following, now IR means international information returns, I think. Now here we go, ready? So they're going to waive relief for penalties systematically assessed when a form 5471 information return of U.S., blah, 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 and form 5472. Here's the operative language. It's attached to a late filed form 1120 or form 1065. Americans abroad file 1040. Are you with me?
All of our U.S. clients file 1040s. They don't.
Exactly.
I don't have one client out of our thousands that this would apply to.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a tax preparer, as everybody knows, but that would be my sense of this, Anthony, for sure. Okay.
Yeah. So I've never seen 5471.
Now let's just think about what that means for people for a minute. Okay. I mean, there are tens of thousands, if not millions, right, of people who carry on businesses through small business corporations outside the United States. Why? Because, that's what it means to optimize your tax situation in another country. Okay, sort of the short answer. They don't get relief. Let's continue down now. The next one is important. Penalties assessed by look at this, the campus assessment program.
Yes.
Makes it sound, like the Ministry of Love or something in 1984, right? With respect to, here we go, filings on form 3520, form 3520A, okay, and the section of the code that generates this is 6048B. Now, That in itself, at face value, would provide penalty relief for the years 2019 and 2020 for Form 3520 and 3528. Now, I would say, subject to anything you want to add here, Anthony, that the 3520 and 3520A are separate information returns. They're not part of the tax return, and they're not sent in with a tax return, right? So
That's right, right. And they have a different due date. Their due date is
and
March
they have different due dates, and I mean, it's almost like a specialty in itself, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, these things. But anyway, so for a certain type of person, that might be helpful. An
Yes.
example might be, oh God, I don't know, a receipt of a large gift. I don't know,
Right. If you got a large gift,
some kind of a
if you got a large
distribution from a
gift,
foreign trust, I mean, there are examples where that might help, but the key point is this, that interestingly, in RevProc, was it 2019 or something like that? You remember the IRS generally provided relief for a lot of things that would have required a 3520, a couple of years ago.
well, this is where what I recall is them automatically assessing the 3520A penalty. When people would file one as part of our voluntary, disclosure, the IRS would then say, okay, we accept your disclosure. Now here's a 3520 penalty. And we would say, well, that was interesting. Why'd you file that? Send us. It's like, oh, sorry, it was automated.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so that it does. So to me, as it's what we're finding is relief for 3520s in an area that we know the IRS was bungling beyond control. So call me suspicious here, but I believe this penalty program may be very, very self-serving because the IRS created a penalty program that they can get themselves out of with the 3520s. Remember, those are all automated, and think about all that work it created. So now with one fell swoop, they can get rid of the problem they created. And not only that, with this, I am sorry, I am going to call it bait and switch because you're making it look like there's 5471 relief, but it applies to such a minority of taxpayers that full well. You know full well how few it does. That too is a bait and switch. So when I look at this notice, this is just completely deceptive in what it's doing. And I think we caught them red-handed. I think we caught IRS red-handed with their nonsense. They know they have big problems. They know they have big problems. And we're going to move on from this because we got to discuss the Bloomberg article.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think the message for listeners would be this, okay? The way this thing is written, it does, I think, provide relief for 3520, 3528 for the years 2019 and 20. However,
correct.
You do not just go and do something without getting competent, and I mean very competent advice, okay, from somebody who understands, because the penalties on this type of stuff are just over the top. They're unbelievable, okay?
Right, and what I wouldn't want to do is someone who's tricked into doing this program when they really should have done the streamlined program. And it seems that way.
Well,
it seems that way to me, like, wow, it seems like you're trying to mislead people into doing something that really doesn't apply to them.
Well, you know what? I don't know the answer to that, and I suspect it's contextual. But on your point of the streamlined, I would agree with you, and I think this is an important point, that streamlined is far and away the best way to get information returns into the system without penalties. Okay, I mean, there's little doubt about that. Okay, continuing on down. Let's see.
Well, I want to hold on, Keith. I got to follow up with Keith. Okay, so what do you think, Keith, of this notice? Do you think people are going to be tricked into doing it? Do you see the problem?
I do see the problem, and they will be tricked into doing it. That's why this is very important to get out there, because, the average person is going to think that, okay, penalties are going to be waived. Let me go and move forward.
And it absolutely does not.
And by the way, and I want to just say in full disclosure that I actually was agreeing with the authors of the article that I was criticizing at first, and it was John who pointed it out to me. So that this is, and I would say that it's not a bad article, but it is missing the point. But they're trying to help. I would say that they're trying to help because they got the important thing out there that, look, before you go too crazy, it's not going to help you out for 8938 or FBARs. So that's nice. And I think my point isn't that it's that complicated. that I didn't pick up on it until John pointed it out to me. Wait a second, let's look at the source doc. So I just want to make that very clear.
Yeah, you always have to read the statute, the reg, the source doc. I mean, because, this stuff is, not only is it hard to understand, but people see it through the eyes, the mindset that matters to them, right? So when I read these things, I think about individual American citizens living outside the United States. And that's why I can generally, see through these things very quickly. It's not that there's an attempt to deceive. It really, Anthony, it's as though this thing was written with no consciousness of Americans abroad existing, right?
Oh, no, I disagree. I think it was as a way to get at them, because that's how it's written. It's written as a trap. It's written as a big middle finger. And
you really think it's a trap?
Come on. You give nothing to the actual people who are suffering the most, to people who I've never even heard a complaint from someone. Look, the thing is if you have an 1120 filing, that's a C corporation, right? You got a whole corporation behind you. The idea that your corporate office wouldn't do your tax filings correct, it's probably not that realistic. So I would love for the one person, the one corporation in the world, raise your hand. If, oh my goodness, the 1120, hallelujah. There could be one or two out there. There really could do, but it's so amazingly insulting, which brings us to our next topic. Because boy, what did I say about insulting?
Yeah, I think actually, let's go to the next topic, but I think an important message, just to repeat myself on this.
Yeah.
I think that the message from this is that there's no possible way that this IRS notice this week can be construed as general penalty relief, okay?
Yeah.
There's no possible way. Although there are pockets of people it does help, it's only very minimally helpful to Americans abroad in very, very specific circumstances. Why? Because there's no Form 8938 relief. There's no 5471 relief. There's no FBAR relief, okay? And I mean, I noticed online a lot of screams of joy about the 3520, 3520A. I agree that's good, but if that is in the context of all the penalties that have already been issued, they're outside the scope of the years 2019 and 20. So all I'm saying is this. Get competent advice before you respond specifically to this notice. Okay, that's all I'm saying, all right?
Yeah. It's yeah, and I would say if you're and all our advisors watching this, luckily John broke it down for us. We all owe him a huge thanks for us, because he helped us, and now we could spread. I might have told people the wrong thing just because it's a really quick notice, and as I'm looking at it now, there's no way, my opinion, it's not a bait and switch. But we want to move on. Andreas Kluth from Bloomberg has an opinion piece. Awesome job getting this in there. Wow. Keith, let's start with you. Look at this. What do you think of this article, man? This is something.
Well, I think it's excellent. It's refreshing to have somebody write a piece that's accurate and that's not maligning Americans overseas and is giving the reality on the ground. And that's what this piece is doing. So I'm very pleased.
Yeah. So Andreas, thank you so much for doing this. We're going to give you a shout out for this. This is just such a great article. And now here's something I want to, this is great, because I actually didn't look at the background of Bittner, the FBAR case, because this is the big case that's coming up in the fall. The Supreme Court's going to decide this whole FBAR thing. Now we have some content on this. We've done some past episodes, and we've actually proven that there is no law that requires an FBAR. That we've proven the FBAR requirement is something completely invented by Treasury, and the IRS enforces it completely illegally. IRS appeals acts completely illegally to enforce it. The entire thing is nasty. So we're hoping when the Supreme Court takes a look at Bittner, they're really looking at Section 5314 of Title 31, and you'll see it yourself. The IRS regulations will say this very quickly, that section prescribes an FBAR form. It certainly most does not. But so now what we're getting to in this case is about the appeals penalty, what it means to be non-willful. Now, this is the whole problem of this form. Everything. We've done a lot of FBAR content, and I don't want to go too much into it. What do you want to say about Bittner? Anything, John, do you want to say anything about the Bittner case?
Yeah, I think we need to provide the context for the case.
Yes,
okay?
that's
so basically an issue for as long as I've been aware of this stuff, which as I reflect on it is quite a while now. One of the outstanding issues has been whether an FBAR penalty can be imposed for each unreported account or whether it's based on the form. So let's say that you have foreign bank accounts, which are probably local to you, but that said, say you have 5 accounts, okay? And let's say you fail to file an FBAR and there were 5 accounts. So the issue here is whether the non-willfulness penalty it could be imposed on each of the 5 accounts, or whether it would be imposed based on the fact of having not filed the form, right? So if it means you have to file the form, that would be one FBAR violation, say $10,000. If it's based on not reporting an account specifically, regardless of the fact that it all goes on one form, then it would be 5 times 10 or $50,000, okay? So this is a really, really big issue. And as you can see in this case, you know, it's the difference is like millions of dollars of penalties. Now, this has been continues to be a huge issue. And what happened was that the circuits are appellate divisions of the district courts. The Ninth Circuit has ruled that the FBAR penalty is per form. Okay, so in other words, just the $10,000 for not filing disclosing the 5 accounts. The Fifth Circuit, which would be of equal value, importance, precedential value, if you will, okay, decided it was based per account. All right, so we have these conflicting decisions from these courts, and this is now the Supreme Court of the United States has agreed to hear this case to resolve this issue, whether it should be based on the penalty should be based on the form or whether it should be based on the number of accounts. And this is, it's a good thing, I think, obviously. It seems to me it underscores, though, how insanely important these issues are in American culture, et cetera, et cetera. Also, parenthetically, the sort of real estate person in me immediately thought, oh my God, all the people who own properties in the Fifth Circuit or whatever it is, they should be taking a big hit to their property values, because you live in the Fifth Circuit, you can get an FBAR penalty based on the number of accounts you have. You live in the Ninth Circuit, you only are penalized based on the one form. So I would think that this ought to cause everybody to pick up and move to the Ninth Circuit, right? I mean, at least until the Supreme Court deals with this. Now, where this is important, Anthony, is we've, of course, been discussing FBAR a great deal. And I'm going to send you a link to include with this podcast, where if you look at the documents, the briefs that have been filed with the U.S. Supreme Court, and I think everybody really should read them because, what this really, I've been saying for years that there's a difference between rule by law and rule of law. And I don't think the U.S. is a rule of law country anymore. I think it's just based sort of rule by law and kind of weaponized it. Because if you look at, for example, the brief from, it's actually the Taxpayers' Rights Group. It's an extraordinarily well-written brief. I mean, I recommend it to everybody. The best thing I've read in a long time. I mean, it really gets into the statute, the purpose, how the various sections interact, pointing out the absurdity and, making this a per account penalty. And then we contrast that to the brief of the U.S. Solicitor General, which frankly is extraordinary in its depravity. I mean, it ends basically, there's no reason whatsoever. The reason they give for wanting to uphold the per account penalty and not the form, get this, is because, they went into this thing about how they think Bittner's basically a common criminal and blah, blah, blah. And they said, it's important that Treasury has the right to inflict the full punishment of the U.S. government available on these people. In other words, it's about vengeance, right? So, I mean, it's shocking. It's shocking. It has nothing to do with the law, apparently. It has to do with, vengeance.
No,
anyway, that's what it is.
You know what it actually kind of reminds me of? It's greed. it's greed, and people don't see it because they don't look at it that way. Because I'm not making the claim that these these government employees are directly pocketing the penalty money, but the penalty money is used to justify their existence. They want this because it makes them bigger. They want to steal from people who did nothing wrong and criminalize them because they're small little people who can do nothing in life. That's the truth. So they must steal. They can't create. They can only destroy. And that's where they're at. It's so absurd. Like, first of all, you don't have the right to seek this. And then let's look at who are these people you're going after? Oh, the people who can't fight back, right? That's who you love to go after. Oh, don't you? Because you don't want to fight. You got to back off there.
Well, it's very consistent, I think, with the penalty relief notice we just read, because remember, again, the principle is everybody remains subject to penalties except, right? Okay, in other words, it's a presumption of penalty. And, the whole FBAR thing, is also, I think, really a presumption of penalty. That's what Treasury
It is criminal. The FBAR is criminal.
Well, I think the FBAR is, got to come back to the Kluth article here, right? He's using, this is really brilliant because he's using this FBAR issue. Now, the brief filed by the Taxpayers' Right Group goes to great lengths, by the way, to explain how the application of the FBAR discriminates against Americans abroad. All right, and it's worth reading for that reason alone. And that's why I think that, we can look at Mr. Kluth's article here, which is really quite brilliant. But what it really is, I think, is an article in disguise pointing out the problems of Americans abroad and using this particular FBAR case as an example of it. Because, there's no question that FBAR applies differently to Americans abroad because these are their local accounts, they have to have them, etc. And he uses a whole bunch of other examples, just to show the problem here. So this article is consistent with, the earlier articles that he's written, which, basically have the same theme. But,
sure greedy,
great stuff.
Well, now let's I paused on the screen share. I had a long talk with Mark Zell yesterday. And his partner Noam, Doug Clyde. We had a great talk. Mark's a great guy.
Absolutely.
So Mark is helping out one of our clients, and you are helping out others too. You guys have a lawsuit going. We're looking for more plaintiffs. I have a few I need to talk to you about. And so I want to just move over and give a little, and I think we could give a little plug to our effort to grab plaintiffs. And I just got an email from someone last night who wants to help out on our project. Keith, can you mention what that project is? I want to give another call for more volunteers and see who else we can get engaged in it.
Yeah, this particular project is to compile letters that have been sent over these past number of years to U.S. representatives, whether that be your senators or your congressmen or women, regarding the problems as it pertains to citizenship-based taxation and FATCA, FBAR, whatever, all the problems that adversely affect Americans overseas. And not only just the letters, but if you happen to have responses back from those individuals in Congress, to put it together in one big book to show the absurdity of the U.S. Congress not understanding the problem, where they should understand the problem, considering there has been a lot of lobbying going on in regards to what's happening to Americans overseas. So that's the objective. And each person who is sent a letter, we really want them to send it to us. And I believe, don't we have an email address that we are using, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah.
Where they can send it?
Letters at seatnow.org. Letters.
Okay.
Right.
I'm going to forward one over. I got a great email from somewhere. So letters at seatnow.org. I'm going to forward over an email I got from one of our fantastic viewers. So anyone more? And by the way, I would say, if you have any specialty in producing content, anything at all, I could use some help on this podcast. Things are blowing up, and I'm having a hard time keeping on top of everything. I was very thrilled. luckily, we just brought a new CPA on board to my firm, and he sent me the best email I could possibly get. Finally, somebody understood what I was looking for. He sent me an email yesterday. He said, "Oh yeah, glad to come aboard, Anthony. By the way, I'm a big fan of the channel." I said,
That's very good.
oh, you must be brilliant." I said, "Oh, you must." And it's funny. And it's funny how people like, how would I apply for a job there? Like, well, I put my heart and soul in this thing. Maybe I care about it, So I would say that I am absolutely looking for people who are just like us to join my firm. CPAs, not so maybe one or two attorneys, I guess, but mostly CPAs, because it's really a lot of the work. It's the heart, it's a lot of the support work to push down the IRS, because what it comes down to ultimately, unfortunately, is if the IRS thinks you are a fight, they don't fight certain things. I can name the corporation that everybody here heard of that hadn't been audited. My friend was tax counsel of this very large, very not popular firm that was never audited in the IRS in the 12 years he was there, simply because he's really good. They're like, yeah, you're really good. You know what you're doing. We're just not going to bother with you. So this very, everybody here would probably agree. Yeah, that's a probably bad corporation. We wouldn't like, yeah, the IRS isn't going to touch them. But, if you're working an honest living, if you're if you're naive enough to think the IRS isn't your mortal enemy, that's kind of what you have to do. Everything you do, they are your enemy, but you can beat them once you understand they're actually not that strong. So that's what it comes down to. And so, if anyone is looking for something, looking for a job, let me know. I'm going to put my email up as well. Keith's email as well. Share your stories. I mean, and I want to give one more call to action for plaintiffs for any lawsuits. So,
Yes.
we have, I'm going to be sending, I think I have someone who's he's in New York State. I'm going to send over to you, John. There's no point where I'm at the point where like my work is done here, because there's appeals is being appeals. So I'll be that. But any other people, who are you looking for to represent here? I want to give you one. I want to get, because I know we have a lot of frustration and people don't understand we can fight back.
Right. And that's what the intent is. And any prospective plaintiffs, they can reach out to any of us to make that first contact.
Yeah, John. So, yeah.
Well, so, generally what are we looking for? Well, I think that, first of all, a very wide range of people from diverse groups, including expats, meaning people, see themselves overseas, whatever, for a 5-year stint or something. Immigrants, people who left the United States, are permanently living abroad, and accidentals. I mean, all three groups should be represented. I also, personally, I think that, politically, I think we want people from all across the political spectrum, right? Because, somehow or other, this issue has become weaponized for partisan reasons, which is just crazy, right? I mean, everybody. So we want that. But secondly, the basis, at least part of the lawsuit, is based on the reality that Americans abroad are treated very separately and more punitively than resident Americans. And I've written various blog posts on this, etc. So we want people who suffered because of that disparity in treatment. And these would include, without limitation, the whole CFC thing, guilty transition tax, the whole PFIC stuff, phantom capital gains, foreign trust problems, the whole penalty regime. I mean, notice that only Americans abroad are penalized for having a normal life, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think
et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I would say one question, because I would recommend, are you interested in any clients adversely affected who are not Americans overseas, but who have been abused by it?
Yeah, I think so. Why not?
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, where this also is a problem is immigrants to the United States who retain non-U.S. assets. We all know that from the voluntary disclosure. And speaking of that,
That's true.
People have been abused through the voluntary disclosure programs, et cetera. So yeah,
There
I
you go.
think
Well, that's actually who I'm going to be. I have a
yeah,
couple.
yeah.
Actually,
I mean, there's a lot of that.
I have the 10-year long abusive
Yeah.
voluntary disclosure program, and right now I'm having a problem locating my client because he had dementia, and he had a falling out with his daughter, who's the only caretaker for him. And so this is the whole issue. Like you're doing a 10-year audit over somebody who's in poor health, knowing that eventually, you'll beat them because they can't show up anymore.
Well,
And
that's right. They'll die before it's over.
Right.
I mean, that's
Right.
part of the problem with this.
So
and that, by the way,
right,
is why I think that people need to very, very seriously consider renouncing U.S. citizenship if they have another citizenship. Because the way
that's
I
my
see the
question.
Bittner case, actually, if the Supreme Court rules that the per account penalty thing is appropriate, I mean, I would regard that as an absolute declaration of war on Americans abroad. I would put the judicial seal of housekeeping, if you will, on a
war's going on
situation. And I'm not like just, this isn't just, popping off from my perspective. If you were to look at the brief filed by the Taxpayers' Rights Group, which is an extraordinarily well-written brief, they take this position as well. That it's particularly abusive and discriminatory when it comes to Americans abroad, or I think they say overseas Americans, but same thing. So this is not, my just sort of, I mean, yes, this is the group that, I've been trying to help on this, right? But it's not, I'm not alone in viewing it in this way.
Yeah, small people assess big penalties is what I'm gonna say.
So I have a question regarding
Yeah.
plaintiffs. Americans who were forced to renounce their citizenship, can they be a plaintiff?
I think we start with a presumption of yes. Okay.
I have one.
I got a couple, so that's why
I have a big one.
I think we all have tons of those.
Right. Let me reach out to him to see if he's interested. But he hasn't, Brian Socash of It's History channel on YouTube. He's up to 500,000 subscribers. He's killing it. He's one of my clients who renounced his U.S. citizenship. He runs a media. He's famous in Poland. He's a household name there. He runs a media company. He was forced to renounce his U.S. citizenship. It's a story we carried. Maybe he would want to be a plaintiff. So he's probably going to watch this video. So hopefully we'll see it.
So that's,
I don't know. There are, of course,
mine is one of our
issues and, all kinds of procedural hurdles to clear on this. And I don't know, I think we talked about this in the video with Mark Zell.
Right.
What
I think he had said yes.
Renounce. I don't have an answer to that at the moment, but
if somebody's interested, they should
suffered as a result of this, including people who've renounced or who are renouncing, to reach out. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right. Well, maybe we'll get some famous people to help us out too. The more attention we can get to this, the better. And that's really why we thank Andreas so much for putting the time and effort into such a well thought article. And really, I want to thank John Richardson once again for setting me straight today and helping us get to what this notice really, really means. And I think showing the danger to us. And once again, Keith, I appreciate your insight, telling us what's really going on here. This is just amazing. And what's going on there, that we've been having a heck of a summer. It's only heating up. Sorry for the pun, as we exit our
global warming, Anthony.
So it's only getting crazier and crazier. And so that's really why everybody, just please, we all need everybody to help. So whether you're on Facebook, go check it out, spread this around, support each other, because you know what happens a lot of times? We feel like we're alone. You do something and you feel like you have the entire government pointing their finger at you. And, the best thing you could do is find someone in a similar situation. And we group together, we're invincible. And that's really true. United, right? I mean,
that is true.
Right? We have to be united. The fact is, we all don't agree to this. This is something the government does not.
And this is not a partisan thing. This is not a partisan thing at all.
They've broken up our lack of consent so that we fight each other instead of like, actually, you don't have the consent to do this to any of us. Not one person alive wants to be ruled by this. Even They don't want to be ruled by the IRS. They do it because they're doing it. But no one in the world would possibly vote to be imprisoned and terrorized by their own government. And that's exactly what we have.
That's what it is. It's terrorization.
It's
it really is.
terrorization. It's nothing else. If you're that what the IRS doing is nothing more than financial terrorism. It is. And how far are they going to get away with it? You know, the answer comes up to us. We all can say enough. It doesn't take. They are so outnumbered. We all just say, yep, that's enough, guys. It's over for you. And that's probably their biggest fear, us just coming together. With that, I want to conclude today. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us. What an amazing, great, awesome video day we've had today. Be sure to subscribe. More updates are coming as we're going along. This is Anthony Parent for IRS Medic. For John Richardson and Keith Redmond, thanks for watching.
And Anthony, to summarize what you just said in the words of a great figure in American history, who was it that said, if we don't hang together, we will hang separately?
There you go. Wise advice.
Till next week.
Thank you.